I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right, welcome back, everybody. You're with Steven Pasito on my podcast, Get It. And today I have a special guest. He's actually one of my MMA coaches, or my old MMA coaches. His name is Casey Halstead, and he's joining me today. And, you know, he is an entrepreneur. He's a coach, got a lot of fighters in the UFC. He owns his own gyms, MMA gyms. And again, he was also one of my coaches. Happy to have him on today. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too. So before we get started, I've been saving this one story. So it was the first week we met and I started training with you guys. I hated you. So we had got in, I met Ron Turner, and you know, we had these evening classes. So the MMA gym they had at the time, it was called Subtech MMA. And it was right next to where I trained all my clients, which was at next level. It was literally just walking across the parking lot. And so I trained all my clients. And then as soon as my last client finished, I think at 6, I'd run over to their gym. I would train from 6 to 8. I would go back to my gym, train from 8 to 10, and then I'd go home. So anyways, my first week, now I did have a boxing background. So my first week I'm there, I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, which is why I really wanted to get involved and start to learn and grow and get better with grappling and all that. So Ron's like, all right, when you spar with these guys, go light. It's one of those things. If you hit them hard, they'll hit you harder and it escalates. So just spar light, 50%, nothing more. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I first of all get in with this guy that's called Dirty Joe. He's a horrible human being. I love him too, but I hated him at this moment. This was my introduction to both of them, and I didn't like either one of them. So I get in the ring with Joe. So we're going back and forth. We're sparring, you know, we're exchanging some shots. And my back is to the clock, and we went, I think, 3-minute or 5-minute rounds. The last 20 seconds or less, as my back is to the clock, Joe unleashes hell on me. And I wasn't expecting it. He hit me so hard, I think he actually probably knocked me out. But I came conscious as I hit the cage and his fist connected with my face again. I was on my way down. So I kind of stood back up and got through the round. I was hot. I was pissed. I walk out, get some water. I'm furious. So then Casey comes in the ring with me, and I'm thinking, you know, okay, this is going to be better. He's a coach, not going to unleash hell on me in the last 20 seconds. Literally, the exact same thing happened. I had my back to that stupid clock with less than 20 seconds. You hit me so hard, I actually tasted my own body fluids, which has never happened in my whole life until then and never since. So I left that night, and Ron had to you know, kind of console me like, well, you know, he's a coach, you know, it's not a big deal. You'll be fine. You'll get through it. I was so hot, man. I didn't think I'd come back. I did come back. And, you know, then I ended up training with you guys for years and was thankful to have a couple of fights and stuff. But I think, you know, looking back on that, which I laugh about now, but I was so pissed, but I didn't understand the reasoning why that would happen. And then over the years, I was like, you know, I wonder if it was just to test me to see if I would come back and keep training. If I was one of those guys that thinks I'm tough, and then when I get my ass whipped, I don't come back. Or one of those guys that's no, I really honestly want to get better. And so, I just kept coming back, and I don't think I received any more ass whippings like that. But yeah.
Wow, that's terrible. I'm so sorry.
You don't even remember.
Oh my God, no, man. I mean, I know that I was younger and more aggressive then. I mean, we do things a lot different now, you know, but that sounds like something I would have done. Definitely something that Ghetto Joe would have done.
Yeah. And now you guys are 10th Planet. So, you know, walk me through, because you used to have a job, now you do this full time. So let's just walk through real quick here, your road to entrepreneurship. What made you want to throw all of your hats into the ring of the MMA world? What was it like opening up your first gym? Now you guys have 8 together. You focus more on the Vegas gyms. Your partners focus more on the California gyms. Just walk us through all that.
Yeah, you know, it was pretty simple to me. I got into a lot of trouble as a kid, and you know, I always wanted to impact youth and kind of you know, help mold them and keep them out of trouble and just have a message for them. And it just became apparent to me that martial arts was the platform that I wanted to use. And you know, I had a real job. I was working for an oil major, and making real money with real benefits, and that it a few things actually happened, but one of the things is they adopted the lean manufacturing model, where they basically cut all the fat out of the distribution process and the manufacturing process, and all of our jobs were up for termination, and so we all had to reapply for our jobs at the oil major that I was at. And so that made me start thinking that, like, oh, these companies are not loyal to me. And so then I started immediately, it impacted me so much that I immediately started to build my out. And then that's kind of what encouraged me to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, the final straw of leaving and quitting the job and just coming out to Vegas and opening my own job was my own gym out here was I had a baby at 41 years old. And I just knew my wife's an attorney working in California. I was working for the oil major, plus running a bunch of gyms and also coaching a lot of fighters. I mean, we were just so busy, and I knew that I just couldn't get everything that I wanted to get done in California done. It's just too busy. Like, you know, there's too much commuting. The expenses were too high. So I kind of had a midlife crisis and decided to downsize and move to Vegas. And, you know, we did it. And that's just kind of what led me to this position was, you know, just me realizing that if I'm going to gamble on anyone, I'm going to gamble on me. And, you know, putting my faith in a company to be loyal to me it just became apparent that was just a bad strategy moving forward.
Right. And you do have 3 daughters.
I do. I have an 18-year-old in college, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yeah. I just wanted people to hear that.
Dude, it's rad.
And how old are you now?
46.
Yeah. That's also important to know. A 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So
Yes,
I
sir.
have a 4-year-old, and we will be expecting the newest daughter of our home December 14th. So I also will be a girl dad through and through, and we still are going to try and adopt a girl. So I'll have 3 daughters like you, and I will be 40 when we get that last one. So I'll be feeling it.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm preaching to my kids, like, not my kids, but like my students, my fighters. I think everybody should wait until they're 35 to start having kids. You know, when I had Abigail, I was younger, you know, I was in my late 20s, and my life was still about me at that point, you know. And Abigail would wake up in the middle of the night and I had to go to work, and I'd be mad and frustrated, and all this little baby was either wet, hot, cold, or hungry. It was like 3 things. And looking back now at 46 years old, you know, in my late 20s, I wasn't prepared. But now as a 46-year-old dad, there's nothing they can do to make me mad. It could be 4 in the morning. My 2-year-old wakes up and she's fussy, and I just look at it as an opportunity to love her and hug her. And
no, I totally agree, 100%. I didn't have any kids in my 20s. I didn't have my daughter till I was 34, 33, 34, I think. And it's been great, you know. And now I have my second one coming. I'm 38 now. So, yeah, I fully agree. And really quickly, just because I've seen Abigail in the gym with you for all those years, she's in college now. She wrestles still. What's she doing?
Yeah, she's going to Baker University on a wrestling scholarship. I'm so proud of her, you know, because wrestling is such a demanding and grueling sport that, you know, not a lot of people can do it, you know, and it just, I think it's gonna, you know, I have a rule, she's getting paid half, you know, half of her tuition. So I'm covering the other half for her. And the one caveat is she needs to be an academic All-American. You know, I would say she's got to be an All-American wrestler, but that's not really up to her. You know, there's girls that are trying to kill her in there, you know, so it's like, just just handle your athletics, oh shit. Hold on a sec. I got Cody Stamen, UFC fighter here. I got to give him my gym key.
Come on. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, she, I'm really proud of her. I tell everybody, I take pride in my kids. I don't want to be known as being a coach or a businessman. I want to be known as being the greatest dad of all time. And I tell everybody, my daughter Abigail is my masterpiece. Like, if you want to get a look inside of me, you just need to look at her. And she's got all the good things about me. She's got them all.
That's good. That's good. So let's get to fighting real quick here.
Sure.
So you moved to Vegas. Now, I know that, as we were sub-tech in the transition of 10th Planet, we were all doing the jiu-jitsu tournaments, and, there were some small fights and stuff going on. But, we were all, I think the bigger thing too is we were all older. So a lot of us, like me, I had my careers too. I had my businesses. And so after my second fight, I had to leave and I couldn't really come back. I trained when I could here and there, but my businesses just finally exploded. And I know Ricky, he trains here and there, but he got busy and a lot of the other guys did. And you started transitioning these younger guys. So when you guys started transitioning those younger guys, was that when you really started to push those guys to get into really establishing those good, solid fight careers where they could get into the UFC? And then what was that transition like, having fighters there? And what's your experience been like in the UFC?
It seemed like a natural progression for me. It all started with, I was a little long in the tooth, and, I had a few fights, but I couldn't really get a camp together without getting injured. And, the cards, the younger guys now, they're getting the MMA and the jiu-jitsu earlier in life. For me, I had a little bit of a wrestling background growing up, but, I didn't really get into jiu-jitsu and MMA until a little bit later. So I kind of came in at the tail end of my athletic prime. And so it was always kind of natural, just because I was training to fight. And so I had fighters that I was training with. And then, I owe a lot to Tony Ferguson, to be honest. When we opened up 10th Planet Costa Mesa, he ended up just walking in one day, and we hit it off and became friends, and I started coaching him. And then, of course, the entire time I was with Tony, we never lost a UFC fight together. And so sometimes being in the right place at the right time, being a little lucky, is more important than skill. And I think part of the reason I get a lot of fighters now has a lot to do with that, of course, because from Tony Ferguson, I ended up getting Mark Munoz, who was also really big at the time. Yep. And both of those guys got
was his last fight too. And then I saw you guys posting some stuff with him on Instagram right after.
Yeah. We were in the Philippines when he retired. We fought Luke Barnett, who's actually a very dear friend of mine now. But, those guys really springboarded my career. And then just because I'm a project manager too, that's what I do as a career. I came up in a corporate background, right? So I'm able to handle scenarios, and I think people trust me. They know that we hit the road, we're going to the Philippines, we got a layover in China, we got a big fight coming up. They don't have to worry about missing a flight, missing this, missing that, not making weight. I handle all that. So they know I'm not going to sell the farm. They know they can trust my decision making. Right. Also, I let all my fighters know I'm not going to let them take too much of a beating either. I'm one of the coaches that would stop a fight. If one of my fighters was getting hurt too much, I would stop it. And I let them all know that. I let them know, hey, if you're the kind of guy that wants to go out on your shield, I'm the wrong guy to have with you, because, I don't need the fighting money. I don't need the coaching money. I make enough money through my businesses. And so literally, if I'm traveling with you and I'm coaching you, it's because I care about you. And because I care about you, I'm not going to let you take unnecessary damage. And so most of my fighters know that about me, and they appreciate that.
It's funny too, because I follow you on Instagram, and we'd been in New York at the same time together, and you were there for fights, for UFC fights. You had, I think, 3 guys there to fight. And I was there with my wife because she's from New York. And there's been a few other places in the US that we've ended up at the exact same place being together. And I just always think it's so funny. But part of it too is because of my basketball stuff. I'll end up in the same place. We've never been able to connect. But and one of the places you were staying like 2 blocks from where we were, but I was like with my wife and we were just trying to like enjoy a couple days off because I work so much like you. And yeah, man, but it's been fun to watch. What's the biggest highlight you've had so far and then the biggest frustration you've had so far?
Oh man, MMA is probably the worst sport on the planet. It's the highs are so high and the lows are so low. I mean, probably Lance Palmer winning back-to-back $1 million fights in the PFL. Those were pretty big deals. Joe Benavidez knocking out Formiga. That was a pretty big deal. But then again, Joe losing to Davison Figueiredo in Abu Dhabi just a couple months back. That shit was good. I'm still not over it, Like I said, you can't expect to win every fight. But the thing about MMA that people don't realize is the guy that deserves to win doesn't always win.
Oh, 100%.
You can do all the work. You could cross your T's and dot your I's, and you could be the greatest person in the world. Joe Benavidez comes to mind when you think of great people. And, it's just, oh my God, it's just the most gutting sport. But I think a coach can only influence the outcome 0.5%, maybe 1%. But when you're talking about the highest level athletes on the planet, that's actually a lot, And so I always wear losses. I take them personally, and oh my God. So the highs are so high and the lows are so low. Yeah. And, we've had a bunch of them. We've had a bunch of them both ways. One weekend, you're feeling like you're on top of the world. The next weekend, you're just in the dumps and it changes quick. It's rapid.
When you go through those losses, and I know that I'm a coach, I get it. Losses can definitely personally affect you. And I've, like you, we win games, we lose games. I won a national title last year for basketball, which is impossible to do because there's a million clubs and you're competing against all of them. And we competed in this circuit where we actually won the whole thing. And, you're right. Those highs are so high and you're floating on these clouds. And then I went back to my regular, younger kids teams. And it's like the frustrations of, if you just listen to me, you'd win, and it's challenging. How do you deal with those losses? How do you deal with those when you're at your lowest points? How do you deal with the feelings of those? And how do you just process through it?
So, that's a great question. And, I am kind of an aggressive person. I'm a little bit older now, so I've mellowed out, but I'm like an attack kind of guy, right? And so if I'm left to my own device, I'm probably going to end up getting myself into trouble. So I've put 3 pillars to be exactly in my life. So it's, first of all, I'm identified as a husband number 1, because without my wife, I can't be a dad number 2, right. And then coach, mentor number 3, right? Mm-hmm. And so no matter how rough the seas get, I have 3 lighthouses. It's right. Husband, dad, coach. And so for me, I try to keep things in perspective, and I'm a systems guy, So how is this impacting my wife? How is this impacting my kids? How is this impacting my students? Right. And so I have just kind of like a canned recording statement about when you're going through something really hard, a huge loss, a loss of a family member, a divorce, a breakup. Eventually time heals all wounds, right? Love, everything. It heals everything. So right. If you allow yourself to tank too much, you're going to end, when you're done feeling sorry for yourself, you're going to end up broken with bad credit, right? So because I know that time heals everything, I'm not willing to waste time not improving and getting better. I'm just not willing to do it. So I get in the dumps, I wear it, I get depressed, but I keep my pillars in mind. How is this going to impact my wife, my kids, and my students? And if it's not going to be a positive impact, I won't do it. So I literally just come back home. I don't even take a day off. I fly in on a Sunday, and I come right back and train, and I just get right back in the gym, and we start fixing the problems, you know? And it's like, listen, nobody ever felt bad for somebody feeling sorry for themselves. You know, you got to pick yourself up and you got to get going. But, you know, it echoes in you for months after a loss. It doesn't really ever go away. You just got to push it aside and make shit happen.
You know, it's funny that you say that. So I, like you, before I had my wife and daughter, and now daughters, when I lose, I usually ended up training with you guys right after, or I'd go to the bar and drink, you know, something probably, well, either constructive or not constructive, right? But yeah, it's hard. And kind of what you were saying, having a family has changed my life. And so now, you know, look, I'm a basketball coach. I coach sometimes literally 6 games on Saturday and then 6 games on Sunday. And I'm not going to win them all. It's just never going to happen. But yeah, you know, lick my wounds. And I've I've coached thousands of games at this point. There's no way it could possibly count itself. Now it's just like, we win some, we lose some. And I purposely now enroll my teams in tournaments where I know we're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with it. And I know we're going to lose. I'm playing in these higher divisions to make those kids better and to make them more hardened. Like I flew to California. I'm in Denver right now. I flew to California last weekend. Got in on Friday, game Saturday. I enrolled my one of my boys' teams in a tournament Sunday. I knew they weren't going to win. We didn't, but we played our hearts out, which is all I wanted. Came home Sunday night, was happy man, started work Monday, you know, and I think too, it's just how you think about those things, right? I mean, fighting is a little different. You don't want to lose in fighting. Basketball is a team sport. Guys aren't beating the hell out of each other, so it's very different. But the concept of coaching, for sure, and how you process that. But there's a lot of coaches that they do not do well, man. Especially in the MMA world, but for basketball, there's a lot of coaches that just don't handle losing well.
Yeah, no one likes losing. But here's the thing, like I don't want to get down the political trail or anything like that, but we're seeing the results of people not taking losses growing up. You know, like, I mean, I've seen football leagues where they start on the 20 and they get 4 plays to get in the end zone, and then they just flip around, and then the other team goes. Soccer, they don't keep score. And when I was a kid, you know, I grew up in the late 70s and the 80s. I went into high school in 1988, and it was all about winning and losing. And I think it set me up to where now I do jiu-jitsu every day. At least twice I roll. And believe me, I'm 46 years old, and I'm training the highest level athletes on the planet, and I'm getting my ass kicked every single day. And it's so important that we take losses. It's the most important thing for our character, to take losses and realize that you're never your best day and you're never your worst day. You're usually somewhere in the middle, moving around. And if you're spending your whole entire life trying to not take losses, you're living in a fantasy world. And guess what? The real world will crush you at some point, and you're not going to be equipped to deal with it. And so I challenge everybody. That's why my daughter's wrestling. I mean, yeah, she's been wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu. You remember her. But when we moved to Vegas, her 8th grade year, she was trying to tell me, like, oh, I don't want to wrestle. I don't want to do this. I took her to Dick's Sporting Goods. And I said, what do you see? You see basketball, huge amount of space. You see baseball, huge amount of space. Track, a huge amount of space. Water sports, weightlifting. I took her to the wrestling section. They had 2 pairs of wrestling shoes and 1 headgear. And I said, why do they have such a small footprint in this building, Abigail? And she was like, oh, I don't know, because wrestling sucks. And I'm like, no, because it's too hard. It's too hard. People can't do it. And I said, this is exactly why you need to do it. Because at some point, I'm not going to be here to fight for you. I'm going to be gone, and you're going to be here raising your little sister. And I said, so when I need to make sure that you are going to be able to compete with anyone in business. Like when people feel frustrated with competition, guess who does not? Wrestlers. People that have taken thousands of losses in their life.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's why you got to wrestle. But it doesn't have to be wrestling, but it should be like competitive soccer, competitive basketball, competitive baseball, competitive wrestling. But if you've got kids and they're not competing, you're doing them a disservice.
Oh,
for
100%.
sure.
Yep. My daughter, I always told my wife, once they get to like 5, 6 years old, they start jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And Scarlett's 4, she's going to be 5. And so we're going to do snowboarding this year. And then when summer hits, she turns 5 and she's doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so, I think that's a wise decision, man. I really do.
Yeah. Also, you know, more to your point too, I think that you have a different level of confidence when you're doing combat sports. I think a different level of respect. You're able to relax in intense situations. Not to mention, unfortunately, we do live in a world where girls are targeted, and you don't hear stories of hundreds of thousands of guys being raped, but you do hear that for girls. And I just want to make sure that my daughters are able to defend themselves no matter what. But so jiu-jitsu, and they'll do kickboxing and stuff too, because they need to learn how to strike. But I fully agree. I think that you also need to learn how to lose. And really for the fighting stuff too, going back to your level of ability to handle pressure and problems. I've done security. I don't know if you've ever done security. And then just in my normal life, like some people have come at me really hard over something so small. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry. What's the problem? Whatever. It's like, look, okay, well, I'm sorry. That's my fault. I can take care of it. It's not that big of a deal. Like, bring it down a notch. We're not going to get in this yelling match. I'm not going to fight you in the parking lot over something silly. Let's just take care of it. And the same for security. I've had people run up on me, try and get me to fight them. And it's like, you're drunk. If I hadn't had any combat experience, I will win this because you're drunk and I'm not. But I've had all this combat experience over the years. You're not going to do well. And just being able to know that, hey, look, I don't have to take a personal pride issue in this. I've been called horrible things that I will never say on this podcast, but you can imagine. And I just tell them to have a great night and move on with my life, and I forget about it.
I mean, you said it. You actually said it about 5 minutes ago. You enroll your team in tournaments that they don't have a great chance of winning. So, like, the idea that if winning was the only goal in fighting, we would just go around fighting 4-year-olds and weaklings, right? Because you're never going to lose. So,
right.
The non-trained fight, the non-trained versus the trained, it's not even a challenge anymore. Right. So for me, as like I got better in martial arts and I started getting more confident and feeling better about myself. Now, if I'm in a bar, let's just say, which I don't drink, I don't go to bars, I just stay away from that shit. But if I was, and someone started talking to me in a bad way, my whole goal is not to fight him because that's just too easy. A, I'm sober. B, he's smoking and drinking. Like, even just if he's a better fighter than me, he's not going to have better cardio than me.
Right.
So I'll just tussle with him till he's tired, and then there's nothing. But more likely than not, I'm going to beat him up very easy. So for me now, the challenge is not to fight him and win. The challenge is to get him to shake my hand and let me buy him a drink. That's the challenge. And that's hard to do when someone's drunk and aggressive and they're a beta trying to act like an alpha and they're dealing with me. The real challenge is mental jiu-jitsu.
100%.
And again, that's fun to me. I want to turn those guys around, and then by the end of the night, we're like hugging each other and laughing, so the goal is to not just beat up people.
Right.
The goal to do martial art is to challenge yourself against someone else who is also challenging themselves. You agree at a specific weight with a specific rule set, and you do it in a safe manner, and you see where your skill set is. It's just so, like, I couldn't even comprehend fighting. Like, you would literally have to attack me to get me to defend myself. There's no amount of words that you could ever use on me that would get me to fight anyone.
All right, 2 more questions. I'm gonna make these fast. Have you ever watched the series Kingdom on Netflix?
I watched probably about 6 episodes. I got a lot of friends in that show, and I just kind of like, what the hell is going on in this?
You know what?
So that's
I actually did like it. For the first 2 seasons, there's only 3 seasons. The 3rd season was atrocious. First 2 seasons were great. I always think about you guys when I was watching them because there's a lot of stuff that I like different guys in there that I equate to the different guys I had when I was training. Last question. All right. So give us your Instagram. Tell us about how people can either follow you and if they want to train jiu-jitsu and they're in the Vegas area, how they can find your gyms, where are you at? Give us the name. Hit us.
The easiest way to get a hold of me is at Coach Casey 10 on Instagram. Of course, we have a website, 10thplanetlasvegas.com. We have Facebook accounts, but if you want real-time feedback from me, Coach Casey 10 on Instagram. If you're looking, we sell gear, shopnogi.com, but I respond to my own Instagram account. So every DM I get, it's me that's talking back.
I know, because that's how I reached you, because my daughter went through my phone and deleted a bunch of things.
Oh,
she erased people. I don't even know how she did it, but people from Facebook, people from Instagram. She erased contacts in my phone.
Oh, no.
I have no idea. She's 4. So I'm still getting texts now from people. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I just don't know who this is. And like, I'll try and find people. So now I've had to go back on Instagram and start following people again. Had to go back on Facebook. I have no idea what she did. I have no idea how many people it is, but I have you on Instagram. So yeah, you do. You answer everything. I really appreciate that. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much today for joining us. This is Get It with your host, Stephen Basita. Again, my dear friend and guest and former coach, Casey Halstead. Please follow him and make sure if you are in the Las Vegas area and you want to train jiu-jitsu, I can personally vouch. I've been to a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms for 1 or 2 sessions as I've kind of moved about myself on business and whatnot, and I've never, ever had the training that I had with Casey and Ron and that group of guys. The attention to detail, the amount that they care, and I'm not knocking anybody else. I'm friends with guys that own MMA studios, but I've just never felt the way that I felt with them. Like guys that truly cared and were really willing to just spend the time to work with you and make sure you understood stuff. Thanks again so much and have a wonderful day, everybody.